Hello everyone, Cake Jostello here, and today I'd like to review Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, a role-playing game for PC. So sit back, relax, grab some liquid demon seed or perhaps a can of sex, and let's talk about what is probably my favorite video game of all time. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a game based upon the pen and paper RPG Vampire the Masquerade, created by White Wolf Publishing as the flagship title for their World of Darkness role-playing games. The video game was developed by Troika Games and published by Activision, releasing on November 16, 2004 to the North American market and 3 days later in Europe. The initial release was plagued with bugs, but by the time I got the game, these had mostly been patched away by the unofficial patch, something I recommend every player gets before playing, more specifically the basic version of the unofficial patch, so your experience is still that which the developers originally intended. It's pretty unanimously decided on the internet that everyone gets this patch and uses it, so it's not like I'm just some crazy person telling you to use this patch. It's pretty much like all the fans that play this game use the patch. Let's move on to the actual gameplay. The game starts with you having a one-night stand that ends in you turning into a fledgling vampire, a newbie who wasn't meant to be sired in the first place. The head of the vampires in town, the prince, known as LaCroix, holds a meeting before other vampires, or kindred as they refer to themselves, where he kills your sire, but spares you.
My apologies for disrupting any business or interfering with prior engagements you may have had this evening. It's unfortunate that the affair that gathers us together tonight is a troubling one. We are here because the laws that bind our society, the laws that are the fabric of our existence, have been broken. As prince, I am within my rights to grant or deny the kindred of this city the privilege of siring. Many of you have come to me seeking permission, and I have endorsed some of these requests. However, the accused that sits before you tonight was not refused permission. Indeed, my permission was never sought at all. They were caught shortly after the embrace of this child. It pains me to announce the sentence, as up to tonight I considered the accused a loyal and upstanding member of our organization. But as some of you may know, the penalty for this transgression is death. Know that I am no more adjudicator than I am a servant to the law that governs us all. Let tonight's proceedings serve as a reminder to our community that we must adhere to the code that binds our society, lest we endanger all of our blood. Forgive me. Let the penalty commence. Which leads to the fate of the ill-begotten progeny. Without a sire, most children are doomed to walk the earth never knowing their place, their responsibility, and most importantly, the laws they must obey. Therefore, I have decided that
this is bullshit!
if Mr. Rodriguez would let me finish, I have decided to let this kindred live. They shall be instructed in the ways of our kind and be granted the same rights. Let no one say I am unsympathetic to the plights and causes of this community. I thank you all for attending these proceedings, and I hope their significance is not lost.
You soon start to learn about your basic abilities, and after a quick tutorial, the first hub opens up to you, called Santa Monica. As you begin to walk around and explore the various areas in the game, you'll realize that there's a lot more to see than one would think for a game of its time. Every corner has some sort of interest. Doors that are locked become openable later. Everything around you is associated with one quest or another. The sewers down below are full of rats that, while not too appetizing, can satisfy your need for blood. Typically, however, it's the homeless or other passers-by in the dark alleys that will fill up your blood meter. Depending on which of the 7 clans you choose from, you'll have a variety of disciplines or special abilities to use and purchase as you gain experience points. These disciplines are powered by blood points, and if you use up all of your blood, you are susceptible to frenzy. This may sound cool, but you lose control of yourself until you feed off the closest living creature, which in some cases can cause a violation of the Masquerade. If you violate the Masquerade 5 times, you lose, but there are ways throughout the game to redeem your Masquerade violations. Another thing to mention is that if you kill an innocent person, you'll lose a point of humanity, and if you lose all of your points of humanity, then you succumb to the beast and lose. So don't do that. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines has loads and loads of source material to work off of, and it really lets you know it too. Santa Monica alone is full of intrigue, including a haunted mansion, a strange murder on the pier, thin bloods or vampires of the 14th generation and below seeking your help, a ghoul being examined at the local clinic who also needs your help, a man selling blood to vampires through the clinic's back door, a lost bounty hunter, and a club called the Asylum, which is run by a manic Malkavian or demented vampire by the name of Jeanette, who is the active Baron of Santa Monica. A Baron is like a prince, but one associated with the Anarch movement. Jeanette is one of the fan favorite, and also one of my personal favorite characters in the game. Her sister Teresa and her managed to give you quite an interesting twist not that far into the game at all. It's also worth noting that a ghoul in the asylum can give you a side quest, asking you to kill a Kuei Jin, or Asian vampire. A ghoul is merely a person who has been fed vampiric blood, but they themselves are not vampires. Moving along, the second main hub for the game is downtown, which is easily the most confusing of the 4 hubs to navigate, but you get used to it soon enough. Notable places include Ventru Tower, home of the Prince LaCroix, and The Last Round, an Anarch club which features 2 of my other favorite characters in the game, Smiling Jack and Damsel. Smiling Jack is always saying something that'll make you at least crack a smile, and it definitely helps that he has the same voice actor as Jake the dog.
Conversation piece, wouldn't you say? The streets, the hillsides, there's eyes and ears everywhere.
And while I don't personally like to play as an Anarch character or associate with the Anarch politics of the game Vampire the Masquerade, I've got to give it to Damsel that she sticks strong to what she believes
Who
in.
the hell does he think he is, coming into town claiming Camarilla authority over the city? We kicked them out 60 years ago. It's like England coming back and telling the U.S. how they should do things. Fuck LaCroix.
The Tremere Chantry is located downtown, where you can talk to the head of the Chantry, and even move in if you yourself are a Tremere vampire. Tremere are vampires who use blood magic, and hold some of the greatest mysteries in the world of darkness. Downtown also features plagued homeless people, and if you drink their blood, you'll throw up. Isn't that great? This can be avoided by picking up a quest at either the Last Round or the Tremere Chantry, and it ends up with you killing a man named Bishop Vic, of the Brotherhood of the Ninth Circle. Downtown also includes a club based in an old church called Club Confession. I should note that dancing at any of the clubs long enough will regenerate a point of humanity, and that you can only do this once per club. There's also a quest that you can grab from the bartender, who needs help with her money problems. Downtown is also home to some of the apartments used in various quests, an arms dealer behind a truck, and an abandoned hospital. The hospital is worth pointing out specifically because during the first playthrough of the game, I had no idea I could even go into the hospital until I'd already gotten to the next hub, at least. The game is chock full of places to explore, and sometimes you just have to look a little deeper than you may have thought. Entering the abandoned hospital starts a quest when you meet the producer of a TV show called Haunted LA, who has lost his crew member while recording an episode of his show. Ultimately, you find a vampire by the name of Pisha. Pisha is a Nagaraja vampire, meaning she must consume not only blood to sustain herself, but flesh as well. You can do several things from here, mainly one of 2 choices, being that you kill her or the TV producer over in Skyline Apartments, but the latter also opens up the possibility for you to allow the producer to live and just say that you killed him. It's best that you allow Pisha to live, because she gives you a second quest, where upon completion of said quest, you receive some of the best items in the game, one of which is the Odious Chalice, which allows you to store extra blood on top of the total amount of your blood meter. The other item is the Key of Element, which increases your physical absorption by 1, not as important, but still useful. It's best to grab this quest early on because she asks you to grab 2 items, both of which can only be accessed during certain quests in the game, and if you don't grab those items then, you cannot go back later. One of these places is the museum, which you come across during the main quest line. The other place is the Giovanni Stronghold, another place you come across during the main quest line. Other minor quests downtown include dealing with a ghoul named Patty, a quest started by Skelter in the last round, and stealing a briefcase for Fat Larry, the businessman behind the truck, which must be activated by buying a weapon from him.
Cleopatra Jones for a supersized skull. Straight up Foxy Pam Grier style. Still with me?
The fledgling is asked by the prince to investigate the Elizabeth Dane, a ship with very important cargo. On board the ship is the Ankaran sarcophagus, which is believed to hold an antediluvian, or third-generation vampire. The prince fears that someone may try to tamper with it, and possibly commit diablerie, which is when a younger vampire sucks the blood of an older vampire, thus becoming stronger in the process. You merely go on an information hunt aboard the ship and soon return. The prince next asks you to investigate the mansion of Alistar Grout, the Mad Malkavian Primogen, a member of the prince's council. The mansion is a complete madhouse. You finally find a skeleton on his bed, which would leave you to believe that he was dead, but many players who know the source material are skeptical about the Primogen being dead, because he's too old to leave behind a skeleton upon his final death. From there, you are asked to retrieve the sarcophagus from the museum, only to find it stolen. The prince sends you on to Hollywood. Hollywood is the third main hub, and it's by far the easiest to navigate, being a long, straight strip. The only 2 things that are really out of the way include the cemetery, which is home to a zombie-killing side quest, and the Nosferatu Warrens underneath Hollywood, also home to several side quests. The Hollywood Strip itself is home to 2 nightclubs, Asp Hole and Vesuvius, the latter of which is run by the Toreador vampire Velvet Velour. She can give you 2 side quests, one where you must assassinate a hunter who works at the porn shop's peep show, and another where you must take care of a writer who works at the local Lucky Star Hotel. He's writing a script too similar to real vampiric society, and he must be stopped. The first club I mentioned, the Asp Hole, is home to a quest as well, where you must help a celebrity vampire escape a hunter nearby. Other side quests in Hollywood include making sure for LaCroix that the restaurant in town gets a bad review, as well as finding some love for Romero, the cemetery guard. The main quests in Hollywood are mostly given to you by Isaac Abrams, the Baron of Hollywood, who makes you retrieve 2 halves of a snuff film containing the most brutal and realistic imagery ever, feared to be genuine. He also asks you to take care of the gargoyle at the Asian Theater as a side quest. At one point in Hollywood, a woman will come up to you and recognize you from the time before you were a vampire, and she will attempt to make a phone call. Allowing her to make a phone call will violate the Masquerade, and she will follow you around until you deal with her. You can attempt to persuade or intimidate her, kill her, or use powers specific to your clan to stop her from following you, such as the Ventu's power of domination or the Malkavian power of dementation. If you are a Nosferatu, you will not receive this encounter, and what are you doing above ground? After dealing with the Zamisi horror behind the snuff films Isaac had you search for, you eventually wind up in Chinatown, the last of the major 4 hubs. Sadly, and I assume this is mostly because of the rushed schedule of the game, this hub contains the least amount of side quests, but it does have some of my favorites, most notably the quest Gone Fishin'. If you go into the ramen shop, you'll meet the demon hunter Yuki, who is searching for what she considers a henge yokai, or demon. She asks you to find out where to meet the demon, and you end up fighting a giant wereshark in what is one of the game's most memorable battles for sure. Other side quests include 2 given by the owner of the occult shop, Mr. Ox, who asks you to place a certain bad luck talisman in someone's locker, as well as steal a pair of eyes. There is only one other side quest in the main hub, and that is to deal with 2 bitter old men who keep bribing you to kill the other, but seriously, the wereshark fight is the best part of Chinatown, hands down. There are 4 main quests in Chinatown as well, including rescuing a hostage, clearing out a warehouse, and a torture chamber. but none of that's as good as a wereshark. Eventually, you end up at the Giovanni stronghold, home to the clan of incestuous Italian mafia vampires who practice necromancy, where you end up battling the Chang brothers for the Ankaran sarcophagus. Yes, that was a real sentence you really just heard. From there, you are considered to be in the final part of the game, the next location of which is the Society of Leopold Monastery, a monastery of a vampire hunting organization featuring what I personally found to be one of the most difficult boss fights ever. I literally just kept waiting for my health to go back up while fighting this guy. I kept having to save each time I did any damage. It was more of a pain more than anything else, really. From there though, there really isn't much else I can say about the game. Despite 2 playthroughs, quote unquote, I haven't actually beaten the game yet. Both times, however, I did most, if not every side quest. I spent a lot of time in this game, trust me, a lot. I would go back and redo something if I missed something important, and really watched and listened to the characters and events before me. I wanted to keep at least some portion of the game a mystery for future runs of the game, and the only way to do that was to leave it incomplete, for there was no side quests left for me to leave undone. Also, I told myself both times that I wanted to keep it for next time to do on a Let's Play playthrough of the game, but I don't know if I would ever actually have time for that anymore. While Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is an action game, the action isn't what kept me going. The action could be a lot better, honestly. The shooting is bad if your character themselves is bad at shooting, so I would recommend getting high skills in firearms as the game progresses, as well as lockpicking and melee. What really kept me going when playing these games was the story. Everything is exactly like the original source material, and it really shows with the amount of quests in the game and all the different aspects of kindred society we get to explore, as well as the supernatural world of darkness at large. There are experience points to be earned all over the place, and the hunt for more and more kept me satisfied for probably about 50 to 70 hours each run, I would guess. All in all, I recommend this game to anyone who enjoys open world RPGs or just wants to play a game with an interesting story to tell. After making this review, I think I'm going to go back to the beginning and finish it once and for all.